Have a seat. Okay. First thing I want to say, unofficial before we start the meeting. As always, we have salad, rice, orange chicken, and we have collard greens tonight. And I'm not gonna tell y'all, I'm gonna leave it there. I only told one person, 2 people. That's it. So let you check it out from there. Okay. So, well, let's call our meeting. We'll say 7:10. We'll start it. Can everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all of us. Okay. First thing, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Especially we had a rainy day, but it looks like the weather went ahead and cleared up for us to go ahead and have a good passage without being slippery and all the rest of the things right there. Okay. Do we have anybody here that's here for the first time? That's not a speaker or like that, anybody? No? Okay. Then we'll go ahead and get to our agenda. Just a second. Yes. Okay, we'll make the treasurer's report next, because she went back home to get it, because she forgot it when we was on our way over here. But we're only 7-8 minutes away. Okay, so primary ballots come this week. Vern, we'll let Vern come on up and we'll talk about that. Where's he at? Come on, Vern. All right, Frederick. Come on, Vern.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, well, so you should be getting your ballots in a few days. They call it a primary, but for a lot of races, it's not really a primary. It's the only race happening. Down here in the Flatlands, probably the most important race to vote on, as we've discussed before, is the OC Board of Education. In the Flatlands here, we have Beatrice Mendoza, who's a great candidate running against the, well, we're trying to replace the majority of, because this is a crazy board that waste all the money on useless lawsuits and approves every charter school that comes along, whether they're good or bad. So here you got to make sure to vote for Beatrice Mendoza in the Flatlands. And if you live up in the hills, like some of our friends here, you got the great Dr. Nancy Watkins. And also you can vote to recall the 2 members of the Orange County School Board or Orange County Board of Education that are up. And I guess at some other point we can discuss Proposition 1. It's for a good cause, but it's a $6.4 billion bond they're taking out while telling us they're not raising taxes, which to me sounds like nonsense. Take out a bond that big and you're going to raise taxes for the next 30 years. So that's a big philosophical problem. That's about it. You were going to talk about paying the dues, because a lot of us have paid our dues and a lot of us haven't done it yet. Here you go, bro.
Okay. Paying the dues, $25 for the year. I don't think that's gonna break anybody or send them into chapter 13, 17 or whatever like that. And it goes for a good cause. You know, the club has to be supported financially. And it's good that we know, like, we have skin in the game and going out and making a difference. So making sure we want to finance our cause and our membership. Remember, last year we was going for the delegates and we came up like 1, 2, 3 from a certain number, so we didn't get the delegate that would have went up to like 60 or 70, whatever like that. So it's important for us to get our membership up. Not only is it going to be important to get the membership up, on Saturday, we will have a mailing list for people who want to get involved with the Anaheim Democrats. Excuse me, Anaheim Democrats, Saturday, the parade. I want everybody to, we'll talk about that later, but I don't want y'all to forget, because you know what? If we can't raise no hell now, then when do we plan to raise hell? Good, how do they say, good problem. You know what I'm talking about. So with that there, we'll bring the treasury report back in when the treasurer get here. We're gonna announce our first speaker, Mayor Ashleigh Aitken. I want to say first, the first female mayor of Anaheim. Okay. Okay. And you know what? I was gonna say, fighting the powers. And we're there fighting the powers. I'm glad you're there, man. Mayor Ashleigh Aitken, will you please come on?
Thank you. He is just a little bit taller than me, so I am gonna put this down here. I just first wanted to say thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you to the leadership of the Anaheim Democrats for inviting me to speak. I know it's been a while since I've been with you guys, and so I always enjoy my time here. There's always faces that I get to see here that I don't get to see either at City Hall or at the different events that we're going to. So I'm very grateful for the invitation, and thank you guys for showing up on this wet and cold and rainy night. For those of you that I haven't had the chance to personally meet or don't know that much about me, he is right. I am your mayor if you live in Anaheim. And my name is Ashleigh Aitken, and I am an Anaheim kid. I was lucky enough to grow up in Anaheim. I'm a product of our Anaheim schools. And when I got married and my husband and I were discussing where to live, I could tell, I told him right away, I'm not living in any place that's not, starts with Anna and ends with Heim. So we now have 3 beautiful girls that we are raising. I have 2 at our local public school at Canyon High School. And then I also have a 10-year-old 5th grader. So after this, I'm gonna go home and I will be on mom duty, helping with homework and putting dishes away and going back to my other full-time job. I'm also a lawyer by trade. I've been practicing law for over 20 years, both as a federal prosecutor with the United States Attorney's Office, now with my family business. We have a small family business in Santa Ana of about 7 lawyers, and we do all consumer actions. So we represent plaintiffs only in consumer action cases. So usually taking on cases where people have had major catastrophic injuries or deaths against insurance companies, products liability cases against car manufacturers, things like that. And I do most of our federal class action work. So that's my 3rd job, besides mayor, lawyer, and mom. So it is always, it's always good to be kept busy, right? My mother used to always say, idle hands is devil's playground, right? Idle mind. So I just brought some things together. I just want to kind of give you a quick overview of some of the things that are going on in the city. And then I know people are going to have questions because there is just a lot of different issues going on, things that are both coming down the pipeline and things that we are trying to close the book on in our passion to move forward. So just want to let everybody know, if you have questions, please, I'm going to be here after my statements and just kind of my overview, and happy to answer questions. Also wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge my Mayor Pro Tem that is here, Norma Campos Kurtz, also on council with me. And we have former councilwoman Denise Barnes with us in the house. And I'm very glad Simi is here. She's one of my commissioners on the Sister City Commission, and is one of the people that just understands my passion for the importance of having good relationships with countries especially when you are leading or really involved in a city as diverse as Anaheim. Building on those relationships and understanding the economic opportunities that are available for our city when we really reach outside our own borders, not just outside our city, but outside our country, learning about other cultures, learning about where people come from. So thank you so much for all of your work on that. And as a commissioner, I really appreciate it. Wanted to start off today just talking about some of the major projects that are coming into the city of Anaheim. And one of the first things I want to just talk about is the OC. So if you have driven by the Honda Center, I don't know if we have any hockey fans in here or riders that come out of Arctic. The work is underway at the OC Vibe. And so it's going to be a multi-year project. I will apologize in advance. Just I know the traffic is a little bit tricky when you try to get in and out of the Honda Center. But it's really about what the dream of OC Vibe is going to be. And so they have made a very large financial commitment and a multi-year commitment to really improve that whole area around the Honda Center, something that Councilwoman Barnes was beginning at the inception is now starting to really come to fruition. And some of the things I'm excited about is obviously the fact that they're going to be investing in that part of our city in building commercial spaces. They're going to be building things like musical theaters. They're going to be having open park space so that people that are in that area have a place to be outside and to walk around. And they're also going to be building a lot of housing. And the OC Vibe family has committed to the city in their agreement to do 15% affordable housing. It's something we do not have an affordable housing ordinance. I know I talk about it a lot, but unlike cities like Santa Ana or cities like Irvine, we don't mandate 15% or even 10% affordable housing in our developments. Right now it's discretionary. So developers can do it if they would like, but there is no policy in place where the city mandates it, or even in lieu fee where they're paying into our housing trust in order to build affordable housing. So to have the OC Vibe voluntarily commit to do 15% housing, we're going to be looking at about 200 units of affordable housing, and what they're going to be some at the very low income level, so people that are making $40,000, as well as moderate income, which is up to $95,000, which sounds like a lot of money and making almost six figures, but we all know in today's day and age, it is so expensive to live in Orange County, and it is so expensive to just the cost of groceries have gone up, the cost of gas is going up, that we have people that are now, in our district attorney's office or people that are working for the county that we now find qualifying for affordable housing because of the skyrocketing costs. So they're looking to build around 1,200 units of housing at the OC Vibe, and with the commitment of 15%. So I'm really excited over the next couple of years to see how that really grows. I'm also excited to start work on something right next door to the Honda Center. We have a project called the OC Riverwalk, and a lot of people haven't heard about it. So not only as part of the OC Vibe are we trying to connect with Anaheim Coves, we really want to develop that whole area so that along the Santa Ana River, we have walkable space and places for people to congregate where you can sit down, where you can walk your dog, obviously expanding the bike path all along that area. And the dream, of course, is to be able to put in water in the water in the riverbed. Like, what a strange concept for those of us that grew up here. We're only used to seeing water in that area when it rains. And I think that's important. Not only it's aesthetically beautiful and creates a more livable space that people are going to want to visit and even just sit down on a park bench and look at. We sit on top of the aquifer. And so to be able to have that water, as opposed to when it rains, draining into Huntington Beach, we can actually capture that down into our groundwater replenishment system. So it's the environmentally sensitive thing to do, and it's a beautiful beautification project. So last year we were able to, the council was able to accept a $5 million grant that we got help secured from Congressman Lou Correa. So that's going to help us be on that first step on that. We know it's a big project. We know it's one of those think big Anaheim projects, but we just want to make sure that when the OC Vibe is done, that we're creating livable, walkable spaces that people from all over Anaheim are going to want to come to and enjoy that time with their families. So we're looking at the OC Riverwalk of about 1.7 miles of space. And we're going to be finalizing the draft master plan on the OC Riverwalk. So look forward to everybody looking at it, reviewing it, giving input on what you would like to see there. Because as we start going through this, we're going to want to make sure that we build something that our residents are going to want to come to. And we're not looking to do it with general fund money. We're going to keep aggressively going after state and federal grants to build the pedestrian bridge so that people can safely walk around and people can actually create a space that Anaheim residents are going to want to go to. For those of you that were at the last council meeting, this might be repetitive for you, but we did have our first workshop for Disneyland Forward at the last council meeting. So it was a very robust discussion, a lot of input from the public. And this is just the beginning at the start of the journey. I don't know how many of you have gone to some of the Disneyland Forward events that the corporation has put on in public parks. They've been in almost every park in every district in Anaheim, talking to residents, asking them what they want. So it might feel like this has been going on for a long time because they've been soliciting input for about 2 years now. But from a council perspective, we are right at the beginning of the project. So we are out talking to our residents in each of our districts, community groups like that, to solicit feedback on what they see, what they think of the project, what they want to see. And then, as we move forward and if it's approved and there's community benefits, what would you like us as a council to focus on moving forward? So I just want to highlight some of the points going forward. As far as a timeline, the next step, it's going to be going to the Planning Commission in March. And then it'll come back to the council in April for either one meeting or a second meeting. So it is going to be something that in the first half of the year is moving that timeline, moving through both the Planning Commission and the City Council. Right now, the project is slated to be a $1.9 billion investment into the resort area. So it's going to be retail, lodging, immersive experiences, similar to some of the projects that they are now doing in their other parks in Asia. I've been told there's the new something called Tokyo Seas, and there's another immersive experience like that in I think it's the Shanghai park. But they're creating not necessarily closed wall, gated, ticketed experiences, but things that people can go to shop, have dinner. If you want to go into some of the immersive experiences, you can. But they're trying to just move the footprint that they have right now to different parts of the property that they already own. I was surprised when my first meeting on the Disneyland Forward project that they have only built about like 50% of their entertainment capacity and only about 60% of the hotel rooms that they are currently entitled to. So instead of just having hotels in one space, theme park areas in another space, they're looking to move it around to the other lots that they already own. I know the big question is, what is the city getting? What are the community benefits that are going to be a part of this? So right now on the table is a pot of $30 million for affordable housing. So that is going to be something given to the city for the city to then make those decisions. We have really robust discussions. The Mayor Pro Tem and I have been talking a lot about having our own Anaheim housing trust as opposed to just working through the one that is now in Orange County. And so that money would be used in several ways. Currently, we get a lot of our affordable housing projects. We put money in from the city, but then we also partner with nonprofit developments. We get grants from both the federal government and the state. So we could use this as a combination to really do that last get mile funding for a lot of the projects that we want to see around the city. And I think if we use with other funding, we're looking to try to build around 500 affordable housing units across the city. They also committed $8 million to our park system, again, with the city council being able to make those decisions about what we want to see. So we want to make sure that we are investing in the parks that we already have, those that just need a little extra TLC because we're an older city, so we have some older infrastructure. $8 million can go towards that, or we can start looking at some other lots to build new spaces, micro parks in neighborhoods that are really, really green space poor. And if we're going to be building a lot of affordable housing, making sure that we're building enough places and areas that are park poor so that kids have a place they can walk to and play and be outside with their families. I've also talked, one of the things that we're bringing back to council in the next couple of months is really what do we do about some of our vacant lots? The city is both the housing authority and former redevelopment properties. We do have a lot of property and lots that we own across the city. Right now, we're trying to either assemble projects, assemble parcels to build new affordable housing, or else we're trying to just, again, get that last mile funding to get projects that are right, almost ready to be shovel ready, to just get them to that last final spot. And so in the meantime, what we're trying to do, and I'm asking our city to look at, is what can we do with some temporary uses in our vacant lots. And so as we are moving forward, trying to get some of these projects off the ground, we could possibly use some of this $8 million. They jokingly in City Hall call it the mayor's butterfly gardens, because I said, hey, if you have an empty lot that a kid walking to school is walking by every day, instead of a dirt lot till we try to build some housing in that area, why don't we just do a community garden? Let's put some trees in there from the Public Works Department. Let's beautify these spaces so that, you know, in the meantime, kids aren't just walking by fenced off areas. And one of my ideas was to have a temporary butterfly garden. So maybe, hopefully, we really will someday have our mayor's butterfly gardens. We are also going to be, when we look at like what $8 million can do, this is something I hear about a lot all over town. You know, we can use it to actually put infrastructure in our parks. And I laugh that they put in there, it could be 64 pickleball courts. People love pickleball. I've never played. I didn't really know what it was until I started running for mayor. But we're looking at things like adding pickleball courts, basketball courts, soccer fields. We know soccer is the most popular sport in the world. It's extremely popular in Anaheim. I am a soccer mom that is on fields 2 days a week, but we are really field poor. And it costs a lot of money to upkeep those. So we want to make sure we're actually building things in our parks for the kids and for the seniors that are there. So lastly, we are also looking at the streets. So I know this is a big issue that was brought up at the council meeting, is the $85 million that they are going to be putting into streets. So 45 million of that is going to be for the street improvements. We're going to have to look at our intersections. We're going to have to look at expanded bike lanes. We're going to have to look at how we're getting a lot of those pedestrians even now safely across that Harbor and Catella. It's a very dangerous intersection. We're also looking at $40 million to buy the appraised values of about 2,000 feet of roadway. So two of those, when you think about Clementine, it's the entrance that the art uses for employees to get into the Toy Story lot now, as well as the end of Gene Autry Road. Those two roads kind of crisscross the Toy Story parking lot. So those are two of these streets, excuse me, that they are looking at buying for the appraised value, as well as Magic Way, which is about 1,200 feet in between the Disneyland Hotel and the new Pixar and Friends parking structure, parking structure. And so that is also on there. Wanted to touch, I don't know if anyone was in the resort area this weekend. Also really excited to have the Anaheim Convention Center back in full force. We just had NAMM this weekend back in its traditional format. In the first time since before the pandemic. So we had about 60,000 people that came to the resort area, to the point where people were staying at hotels in Costa Mesa, Santa Ana, Irvine, because the room blocks were all sold out and it was such a high attendance. And this year we are on track to have over 1 million people come through our convention center. So things that are coming up, it's the busy season over at the ACC. We have Natural Products Expo. We have the World Floral Show, WonderCon, as well as VidCon. And then back this year in August is going to be D23, which is the Disneyland group, and that they haven't had in a while. And it's a expo and convention. I haven't been yet, but I heard it's where they announce a lot of upcoming between movies, TV shows, potential theme park exhibits. So we might you'll get to learn a lot more about what's coming in store at D23. For those of you that are, we're inside and we're a little chilly. I do want to announce that especially with the rain coming and supposed to be here all next week, we are hopeful to get our cold weather shelters open this weekend. So we got a grant from the, thank you. I'm really excited about this. I've been passionate about this since, because we went through the same thing last year. And I know there were so many people in this room that were working with me about trying to find cold weather options. Because now that the Armory in Santa Ana and the Armory in Fullerton are closed, we don't have anything in the county right now. So the county put out a call to all of the cities, and of the 34 cities, Anaheim is the only one moving forward with this option. So we have a grant from the county that is going to open. Right now, we have a pilot of about 5 churches. We're working with Love Anaheim, one of our amazing community organizations. And so we're looking at partnering with 5 churches around the city to have 5 beds to 15 beds where we can give people options. And it's going to include transportation to the church. It's going to include meal at night, a meal in the morning, and they'll be operating around 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. It is going to be targeting Anaheim, those with an Anaheim nexus. That is the way our plan is set up right now. So it's going to be run through CCRT, where people can call CCRT, they can get connected with a social worker, and then they can help arrange transportation and get people into these cold weather shelters. Because we don't want to just have it be someone come into a shelter and then leave the next day and we don't hear from them. We want to connect people with services. We want people to trust us. We want people to trust the social workers at CCRT. So any can come up with a funding opportunity or a chance, even if it's 12 hours, to kind of make that touch, to open those lines of communication and get people to services, I think is a really important thing for our city to do. And so I am really proud that our city was willing to step up, and our council was willing to support this process and work with the county. So please look for information this weekend. We are hoping to have it be up this weekend, and just have compassionate spaces for people to go to get out of this really, really wet neighborhood. Wet weather time. Also excited to announce, and this is something that's going to be coming up at our next meeting. We are due, the council is due to get a report on our street medicine project. This is something that we are partnering with Cal Optima. Again, a really unique Anaheim program where we are going to be going to, and if people have medical needs out on the streets, and this could be anything from a major incident, if somebody is having an overdose, someone's having, a heart palpitation, somebody's having difficulty breathing, maybe there's a lot of influenza and RSV going on right now. If you haven't been vaccinated, this is my health pitch, please go get your flu and your RSV and your COVID shots, because people are really, really sick this year. But this is a way for them to we can go out to them and give them the medicine that they need, transport them to the hospital if unfortunately it is a major incident. But if it's something like wound care, if it's something that maybe is preventing them from going into shelter because they have an untreated health condition, this is what it's meant to be. It's meant to have RNs, vehicle, be able to go there, be able to disperse low-level medicines and give some basic medical care treatment to those that are living on the streets. So it also gives us the opportunity to, right now, those calls are going to the Anaheim Fire and Rescue. And unfortunately, with the waiting times at ERs, we do not want, firemen, 3-4 firemen sitting in a waiting line at an OR off the streets in Anaheim, when we can actually come up with this much more cost-effective and innovative approach with true healthcare professionals, getting people that are on the streets and unhoused the treatment that they need. So I'm very excited to get an update on that and get that program off the ground. This week was a busy week in Anaheim. We were all expecting it, and we did get the state auditor's report. And I was really, really pleased that from the get-go, my council colleagues and I were receptive to the state audit's findings. And even before the final report was out, started implementing some of those changes. So just wanted to highlight those changes that we are doing moving forward. For me, the content of the audit, I don't think had a lot of new information that those of us that have been in the trenches for a while, we didn't know. We know that there were problems at the chamber. We know that there was problems at Visit Anaheim. We know that there are some policies and procedures at the city that we needed to clean up. But this did, I think, highlight actually some good auditing procedures that the city could adopt. So the first thing that we have embraced is the recommendation to start an oversight committee for $18. So for those of you that don't know, I know government is filled with acronyms. I run into a new acronym every day. But the Tourism Improvement District, those funds are assessed by the hoteliers on themselves. They come to the city, and then the city funnels those out to both pay for transportation and fund the Tourism Bureau. But for a long time, we have not had city oversight on making sure that those funds are spent in the way that the contract mandates, both on transportation and on tourism functions. So we are going to be getting a recommendation and starting to discuss with my council colleagues, the city advisory board, and we're going to be doing that by this July. So a lot of the recommendations that the state audit came out wanted us to have these measures in place by summer 2025. I'm very happy to announce we have already started the ball rolling, and we're going to get most of this stuff done this year. And so we are going to be probably as early as next month, probably, you think, Norma, have the discussions about what do we want it to look like, who do we want to play, who do we want to have on it, who has the subject matter expertise, just what do we want that, what their purview is going to be, and what we want it to look like. The second one was the recommendation to adopt the California's state contracting manual by next summer. Happy to announce that we're going to be doing that by mid-2024. Our city manager's office and purchasing division is already putting those things in place. The third recommendation is to amend Anaheim's agreement with Visit Anaheim by next summer with just more performance indicators and safeguards in place. So one of the things when we were going through our reform measures that was brought up, and when I went through and I read the contract, is that we do have some safeguards in place, but we were not following even our own contract. And why this is important is because when Visit Anaheim has funds, they are not supposed to subcontract out with anybody unless it's IT or printing services without the city manager's office or the city's knowledge and authority. And so clearly that happened with the transfer of money to the Anaheim Chamber of Commerce. And so we are going to be amending our contract to both include this oversight committee and make sure that we have more safeguards in place so that we don't have funds that are supposed to be going towards transportation in the resort and tourism promotion going to things that they're not supposed to be going to. And last, the audit recommends assessing some of the chamber contracts that the city entered into to see if any of that money needs to be returned. We've already directed our audit division to audit the contracts we have with the Chamber of Commerce. And I do want to emphasize that we have not had any contracts with the Anaheim Chamber of Commerce since 2022. And nor have we we have paused all Visit Anaheim funding to Chamber of Commerce since last September. So we are still going to go back and look under the hood and make sure that all of the deliverables that they were supposed to do for the work that the city had contracted with them to do was done, and see what we find. And obviously, I'm very passionate about still working with Visit Anaheim on the return of that $1.5 million that was, I believe, inappropriately channeled to the Chamber of Commerce, and working with them about either giving it to us for our housing fund, returning it as general fund dollars, but they did not have the permission to funnel that money to the Chamber of Commerce, and I think they have the responsibility, and I'm going to keep asking for the return of that money to the city. Lastly, I know I'm talking so much, I'm sorry. Last thing that I wanted to touch on is reforms. So the first whole year that I've been in office, we have spent I feel like the majority of it coming up with a lot of reforms. And we've made a lot of strides. And I just want to thank and congratulate my council colleagues for going on this journey with me. We had a lot of different opinions. Some reforms proposed people agreed with me on, and some they didn't. But I think it was an important first step for us to regain the trust of the residents of Anaheim, to show that we can be the adults in the room, and that we can recognize that while the majority of us were not there when all of this corruption was happening, we have 5 out of the 7 council members are new. We can still do better in governing ourselves and in putting up policies and procedures that help us restore faith in the residents of Anaheim. So one of the first things we did was really put some teeth and increase the scope of our lobbying ordinance. It was very narrowly tailored to paid political lobbyists. And we expanded it to include things like, those that do government relations, those that do community relations, those that are liaisons to electeds. They all have different names. It's all lobbying. And now they're going to have to register with the city. We also are going to do a annual audit of about 20% of our lobbying contracts to make sure that those that are lobbying are actually reporting correctly, as well as putting in a ban in place of hiring former lobbyists to then come in and advise and work either for city officials or work for the city. At our last meeting, we had a very robust discussion, which is still ongoing, but we made some movement on our campaign finance reform measures, from times that we are going to be allowed to close out any debt we might have after an election, limits on the amount of personal money that people can put into their elections. And of course, I know everyone wants to just keep their eye on the independent expenditure leg of this, which is very, very hard to regulate. But I have asked, and the council has asked our attorneys to just really keep watching what other municipalities are doing, so that if there is something out there that works in order to try to cut down on independent expenditure funds, we can do that. We've also updated our municipal code to change our retention laws for emails. When I first got there, I was surprised that for the city attorney has to keep their emails for 2 years for statute of limitations reasons. What council people in the mayor's office is 90 days. Well, sometimes we get public records requests outside 90 days. And if we don't have a system in place, or I didn't think the email was important at the time, but now I get a PRA, it was really hard to go back and to start doing that. So we put that policy in place, as well as banning doing city business on your personal electronic devices. So we are most of the council is gonna have iPads or phones, whatever their preference is, to conduct city business. Oh, I'm like, this was my idea. I can't believe it's like the one I was about to forget. We are talking about public calendars. So I made a commitment when I was running that I was going to put who I was meeting with and what I was doing on the city's website, so that people knew what meetings I was taking if it related to city business. And so I've been doing it for about a year now. And I was really proud that my council colleagues recognized the importance of showing the residents all the hard work they're doing and all the meetings they're taking. But it also gives us a way to double check that if somebody is meeting with a lobbyist on city business and that lobbyist is not filing a report or is not doing it, it's a way to just cross-check that we're all telling the residents, what we're doing and who we're meeting with, and everybody's following the rules that they're supposed to do. So I was very proud to lead this pilot program initiative over the last 12 months. And I think people have been really responsive. Hopefully you all look at it all the time. I can't tell. So if not, that's okay. 2 things that are coming up. We are any day now supposed to get the report on housing. We had contracted with a consultant to really explore what are the different elements that the city could use, the different tools to increase our stock of affordable housing. And so we are hopefully going to be getting that report. They said the end of the month. And so it's February 1st. So I'm hoping mid next week, the council will receive the document, and then I can agendize that as early as possible to have that discussion with my council colleagues on what are the different tools out there that other cities are doing. What can Anaheim do to have a long-term funding mechanism for the housing trust that Mayor Pro Tem is going to start in Anaheim, and that I'm going to help her start, and really just increase our stock so that not only are we building affordable housing and standalone affordable housing units, but we're building it all across the city. And we're building it in different places. So we're not just putting it all in one spot. And lastly, someone mentioned to me, so I just wanted to just mention this, and then I'll take questions. We are going to be having a strategic planning session February 10th. I know it's a Saturday, but it is going to be happening. And that is a great opportunity for the council to get together and really just develop goals and strategies for the next 5 years. So when someone has an idea, someone wants to work on something, we can go back to our strategic plan and figure out which goal does this fall under, and are we staying on mission? And I think it also gives the council the ability to throw out some non-traditional ideas. I know somebody was just talking to me about changing the charter, and how, what are some of the things, how do you change the charter? What are some of the things in the charters that we should be looking at? You know, we can throw out there spitball ideas, and as a group collectively come together and just develop a list of priorities on what we want to focus on over the next 5 years, and really have a mission statement out there that we can stick to. So if you can, we'd love to have you there on February 10th. And I will put on my social media information about that so that it's easily accessible for everybody. So with that, I know I've been talking for a long time. I wanted to just take some questions. Mark, you've had your hand up for so long.
Given the JL report that came out, and now the audit from the state of California, isn't it long last time to a formal apology to Chris Zapata, former city manager, who was let go because he questioned the
$0.5 million.
COVID money to be diverted to whatever the pet projects for the Chamber of Commerce. Do you think the city should give him a formal apology?
Yeah, that's an interesting.
His reputation basically just scanned within days of saying, no, Mayor, I don't think this was a Zoom situation with the former mayor, and just no, I don't think it's a good idea. He questioned the whole thing, and then they let him go within days. Also, I have another question about the pending recall of your colleague, Natalie Rubalcaba of the 3rd District. Will you be actively involved one way or another, or you sit it out, or because you'll be accused of putting your thumb on the scale, and you know, if you in favor of her staying on the council. But in recent months, she basically, I'll use the term, stepped in the cow pie a couple of times. And the minute she's done one thing, now recently she's used the city spokesman, Mike Lister, to craft a why she left the assembly. You know, so and she's been using the city resources for her own. And I was wondering how you feel about that. Thank you.
Yeah, so just to your first point, you know, I'm comfortable personally, and I think we all know that a lot of the actions that the former city manager took, he ended up being vindicated. You know, he was kind of trying to sound the alarm for the rest of us in Anaheim, and even for residents, that a lot of decisions were being made in an improper manner. And it's been really interesting just behind the scenes. You know, just in private conversations I've had with staff about just the amount of influence that Todd Ament was he was, you know, basically allowed to come in and exert so much influence over staff and the mayor. Yeah, I think And that's really concerning. So, I mean, that's like, banning lobbyists or paid political operatives from being city staff, getting consulting contracts. I don't think he was paid he did the corruption for free. But, he was definitely, paid on the way out by receiving millions of dollars in these contracts. So, I mean, I do think that the former city manager was unfairly let go. It was a council decision that they voted to let him go for really starting to stand up. And I think that's a tragedy, and one that we're still trying to, claw our way out of. I was hoping to get a lot of our reform measures, done in the first year. And I know that was aggressive, and we're going to still be, we're still going to be dealing with this. The former mayor hasn't been sentenced. Todd Amet hasn't been sentenced. So we're going to be hearing about this for a while. I don't even think Jeff Flint's been arrested. That something's going on. And I think we're going to, there's a couple more shoes to drop. But that's conjecture. That's just my opinion. The second issue about the recall of council member Rubalcaba. So we did find out that they have turned in enough signatures to move it forward. So now it is in the registrar of voters' hands to verify I think they turned in that they have that 20% threshold of registered voters in the city. What is going to happen is, if it passes muster at the registrar of voters, we as a council have to put it on our next council meeting. And similar to Measure A, well, this one we can't decide. This is up to the voters. We have to either put it for a special election on the recall. But remember, state law changed. So the recall and potentially somebody running against the councilwoman, those are two separate things. So the recall is it's considered a ballot initiative. So it is going to be a yes or no, up and down vote. And if successful, then you would have to have a second election about who would fill the seat, or the council could appoint. When you want my opinion personally, I'm absolutely against it and support my council colleague. I think she was duly elected by a large majority of the residents of District 3. And I think we find this year over year. I'm not comfortable with recalls being used as a political hammer. And I believe that not just because she's my council colleague and she's also a fellow registered Democrat. I remember Vern and I talking about why I wouldn't sign the recall petition for Harry Sidhu, because I just fundamentally don't believe that when somebody is duly elected through a democratic process, that we go in absent illegal behavior or some type of, fraud or some type of conviction. I think it's just often weaponized, and it's something that I personally don't feel comfortable doing and rarely support. I didn't support it when it was my friend Josh Newman. I didn't support it when it was Harry Sidhu, and I do not support it right now. I mean, the election is just over a year away, and she was duly elected by her neighbors and by the residents of District 3.
What about the Orange Unified School District? That's where you live.
Yes, I know.
People there.
It is, and again, that's another hard issue, right? Because it was just a year ago. But I just think recalls need to be something that we are almost the exception, not something that's going to be the norm we do. And that's my personal opinion. That's going to be something that the voters, if it gets through all of these hurdles that they're going to have to get through, it's going to be something that's up to the voters of District 3, but I will not be supporting it. Greg?
I'm going to deal with two different things that are tied into what you talked about, particularly involving the charter. At our last meeting, one of the most prominent members of the individual parliamentarians opened my eyes to something. And what this person said was that because Anaheim is a charter city, anything that the council decides is presumptively reasonable. I don't know if that's your understanding or if that shocks you as much as it does me as an attorney. But that suggests that a lot of the things that you're talking about haven't happened in the past. in the future cannot be judged by the normal standards that you would use in an arm's length measure. Especially given that the wrong, which is not going to be solved by Natalie Mukava being removed, although I hope that your vice mayor will agree to vote alongside with you and Carlos Leah if it does come down to a council appointment. It's something that Disneyland has improperly, not convicted or anything like that, stacked the debt of the people who will decide whether something is reasonable or not, so that they can get, even without your vote, even without Carlos's vote, they can get anything they want. Right. And when you were talking, and I realized that even by saying this, I may be putting you in a bad position that I don't really want to do, but sometimes you gotta speak to power, and you're part of the power structure, even if they are shutting you out of actual ability to determine things. I know that when you were talking about what happened with that money that ended up funding the campaigns of people that are now part of this majority, that you avoided a word that I would have expected you as a former prosecutor to use, because you know it not only as a prosecutor, but you also know it as a mother. And that word is laundering. Okay? That was not simply, oh, you know, it went to some other thing that it wasn't supposed to go to. It went to skewing the results of the election that left them with the majority that they have right now. And that infuriates me. I think it infuriates most of the people in this room, and perhaps you cannot allow to get yourself into fury. But when I heard from this person that that's what can be done, because Anaheim is a charter city, my initial reaction to that is, oh, that's the problem. Okay. Revoke the charter.
And become a general law.
Become a general law city where things can be assessed in court for their reasonableness. And I know that screws up a lot of things that Disney has paid for primarily. But it would bring the corruption level way down. And I am not going to expect you to agree with that now or ever, but I will ask you to agree if Anaheim remains, if Anaheim remains a charter city, that this problem will be impossible to solve, because they will always buy a council that can do what they want. I will stand down.
No, I mean, I think it's an interesting thing to look into, because my immediate question, well, there's two comments I'll move to. One, what's the are you saying a standard in a general law city? I would assume that all councils, when they make a decision, that decision has weight, right? And that decision, when we vote on something, whether you think the policy is good or you think it is the worst policy that the seven of us have come up with, it does get enacted. And so that's why things like losing the city manager, taking $6.5 million and giving it to Visit Anaheim in the first place, that I think a majority of us were against. I mean, those are not illegal decisions. We just think it's bad public policy. Yeah. And so, but just wait a second. And as far as the other thing, I know that people, we've asked follow-up questions even with the state auditor's office, because they made that comment in the state audit that part of the money that was given to the chamber was diverted to help political campaigns and for political activity. But there was no evidence. They didn't give us, so, well, where did you get that information? What's it based on? Do you have proof that the chamber, because remember, that's a separate entity that the city does not run and the city doesn't control. Do you have proof that actual funds from the chamber, a 501c6 that is not allowed to get engage in political activity, went into a campaign or an IE or a PAC, or about the chamber that is allowed with under a 501c6 to lobby and make meetings and go up to Sacramento and fight for legislation, which they are allowed to do. Then the separate question is, could they be doing that with our city tax dollars? You know, so my question to the state audit is, I would just like some information about what that couple of sentences means and what is it based on. And I have heard, you know, tangentially that because of ongoing investigations, they were not able to do a deeper dive into some of the chamber's activities as they would like. So possibly, probably more to come. But what I did want to just, I know there's not I just want to wrap it up because I know it's after 8 o'clock. But if anybody has anything that I talked about, I know is a laundry list, please email me. I put my cards at the back of the table. Even if something comes to you tonight, a question that you had, if you have comments, especially on things as big as OC Vibe, Disneyland Forward, all of those types of things, as we're going through this process and collecting community information, it's helpful. And I want everyone to feel free to reach out to me anytime. You know, you don't have to wait for the monthly meeting. I'm your mayor 365 days a year. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. I think as much community input on what we want Anaheim to look like in the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years is going to be helpful. So join us for the strategic planning session. And then please also with the Planning Commission and future Disneyland Forward and OC Vibe projects, you know, homeless outreach, your thoughts are always welcome.
And also, first thing I wanted to say, thank you for the mayor for coming. Because we know that she did not have to come. Especially with all of the questions that we have about Disneyland Forward. Okay, everybody is shaking their head. And guess what? For her to come here, that is saying something about her integrity and her personal structure to go ahead and come to the people.
Thank you. Well, I'm gonna get a picture with this nice new sign.
Okay.
Thank you.
And next I want to say, the mayor will be at the parade on Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if anybody has any particular questions, you cannot tell me that we have a mayor that is not approachable.
Thank you. And pray for no rain for the.
Oh, no, they already told me. We're good to go. All right. Thank you, Mayor. Let me give her a hand. Okay. Okay, let me grab the treasurer's report.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we see the demo.
I got that.
Very good.
Thank
All right, I think
you.
that's enough. Right, right. Yeah.
Okay. Pass out the treasurer's report to everybody. If anybody don't have one, please let me know. I got them right here. Anybody doesn't have a treasurer report? Okay. Okay. Our balance right now, $1,609. We had $12 that's being taken out. So this is at the point, and this is at our month of January, going into February. This is what I do. This is why our dues are so important at this point, because and if everybody, for the record, where is it at? Where my stuff at? Okay. Where? And right here with the records right here, if anybody, we do this every 60 days, we go ahead and we do them. And at that point, we have PayPal on here, we have the Zelle, we have everyone else like this. So, yes, sir. We have a motion, second. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, the treasurer's report is done. All right, so now we can go ahead and move forward. Put my agenda down. Okay, first thing. Saturday. The parade. Everybody knows, first thing, there's been some people who have been working very tireless at doing this together. We're gonna have a float. Okay? And yeah, we're having a float. Yeah, excuse me, my point is this right here. If we don't make it to the OC register, then we bust. Okay? That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. We have been working on it. I have people that are coming, people that have, I mean, even from away, sending things and all like this. I'm gonna give a secret away. I wasn't even gonna tell you. Okay? We got a dance ensemble that all the dancers don't even know who they are. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Is that a heck of a surprise? Okay? Okay.
Where?
I'll leave it at that. And if, guess what? And if you see it for your own eyes and you see it for yourself, then you know that, guess what? We did our job. Okay? 7 o'clock, 7 a.m. at Pearson Park. We will be there to start decorating the float. Okay? We will be serving coffee, hopefully pancakes, eggs, and turkey sausage. For those who go ahead and come early to help us decorate and set the pace for the whole morning. The parade starts at 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. Okay? And it goes from 9, I believe it's like 9 to 12. And we are in the middle. Okay? And from there, we have the booth. Last year, our number on our booth was like 110, 112.
We were way down by Wells Fargo Bank.
This year, we're 51. That means we're right by the circle, because the circle is 1 through 50, 51 to the other side. So we are in there. Oh, excuse me. Everybody, give me 1 minute.
Hey, did you bring the pamphlet? 7, between 7 and 9. Yeah, we can be there at 7, it's great, I'll be there then. We're setting up the booth and we're setting up the float. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I don't know, mysteriously, not so ornery. Huh? Yeah, we're marching, we're gonna have a couple of convertibles and float, and we'll be playing Fight the Power by That's a great hip hop song. And we did it last time. There are only about a dozen of them. Some of them are,
Okay, I was gonna save these. I was gonna save these for the meeting today to pop up a surprise on everybody to show them. But I saw that the surprise got out the bag. Okay, so these right here, when I tell you, and you look inside of them, you know the kind of work that have went ahead and went into, because this is what we're gonna be giving the people. Because you can go ahead and put on a show and get their attentions, but if you don't have anything to give them in material, then it goes to waste. We plan to go ahead and make this all work and work in our order. This right here was done by my wife, Roxanne. I want everybody to know, Roxanne put this together. Okay, that's why I'm telling y'all about people working tirelessly on this parade. The music, like I said, the music, the whole thing, our presentation. So everybody knows about that. Those that can make it. Oh, last thing, 7:30. They will start shutting down the streets at 7:30 a.m. So that means if you plan to drive up to Pearson Park and you're not there by 7:30, the police is gonna meet you and you better be in the parade with what you're driving in, or they're not gonna even let you drive in, they'll let you walk in. Okay, so this is why I'm telling everybody, so that this way you can be prepared for what you're gonna run into. Because I don't want nobody to get blindsided. Okay, and like I said, last year we did this for the first time. We looked up the people that was in front of us. They got their picture in the OC register. Grandma was out there dancing and kicked her legs up, and they took a picture of her as the Mardi Gras type of spirit. But I guarantee we are going to make some noise. And guess what? And my motto is go big or go home. If you can't hang with the big boys, go sit on the porch. Okay? That's and that's the attitude that we need to have as a party, as a club. Because guess what? We got people out here that's, guess what? They're ready to burn the whole thing down. They're ready to burn the whole thing down. So we got to let everybody know for what we stand, who we stand. Democracy is in here. Democracy, number one. We got to let everybody know. So anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
And no?
Yes, I do.
Yes, Mark.
I don't see my picture in this thing.
I don't know what happened. You have to talk to Vern about that picture.
Roxanne.
You're the guy holding your hand. Okay, and so do we have anything else on the agenda? I don't have my agenda with me. Is anything else on there, Vern, that we need to talk about? We already talked about dues. We talked about dues. Anything else that you can think of?
Yeah, on the agenda. 20 days after, it's a busy February. It's a good thing we have a leap year this time. 20 days after, on February 23rd, we're having a celebration of life for Lupe Ramirez, our member, big hero of Rancho La Paz Senior Park. And don't panic, she's not dead. She's moving to Colorado because her leukemia is getting worse, but she wants to have a celebration of her life and we're gonna help put that together with her neighbors at Rancho La Paz Senior Park. If you remember, she's the lady that started the recall of Harry Sadu. I didn't remember that Ashley wouldn't sign it. And she also, along with Sharon Quirk-Silva, she managed to get her senior park, which has happened Anaheim, Fullerton, and she made that the only, well, she got rent control for it, which is really hard to do statewide. It's the only park that's got rent control. And she's been a fighter all her life with unions and stuff. And so I hope that you can all help us with that on February 23rd. It's probably gonna be just a potluck and stuff at the Rancho La Paz Clubhouse that's on Orange Thorpe near the Walmart, you know, the trailer park on the north side of Orange Thorpe. So that'll be a big thing. I'll email you all about it. It'll be a lot of fun and a good thing to do. Oh, and when I mentioned the ballot for you folks in the hills, we also, if you remember, for Congress, we unanimously voted to support Allison DeMichelis in the congressional race up there over Joe Kerr. And there's lots of reasons for that, but we were unanimous about it. And Allison came and talked to us. What else was on the agenda besides eating? Oh, Simi has a important announcement.
Hi, everyone.